Okay, so this is another dark test. I'm going to do this at just wide modes, just to compare, because it did seem that the wide modes were definitely better than the other modes, more than likely because they use the full sensor. So, with that being said, auto low light is on. This is 960, 60 frames per second wide. This is 1080, 30 frames per second wide. This is 1440, 30 frames per second wide. This is 2.7, 30 frames per second wide. This is 4K, 15 frames per second wide. On this test, I did just do the wide, as I mentioned earlier, because it was very obvious on the first light test that the medium and narrow recordings definitely had more noise. So I went ahead and stuck with wide, and I wanted to verify that if indeed it appeared that it got worse, more noise as you went to a higher resolution. And that was consistent. If you look at my first lighting test, I believe episode 3, you will see that 1080 appeared to be the best video quality there, and then it went to 1440, then to 2.7, and then to 4K. And so as we went up, it definitely had more noise. That did appear to consistent this time. I did start at 960 this time as opposed to 720. 960 did look better in this video compared to the 1080, but I think mainly because even with the low light setting on, really the slowest frame rate you have is 60 frames a second. So it's going to have less light, which is going to give you the appearance that you have less noise. But in the essence that you have something that's really dark and you want to be able to see more, you're going to want to have more light too. So I think when you factor in the lower resolution and the fact it's not going to give enough light, it looks like, again, 1080 is the sweet spot for low light video. 1080 wide looks like it's going to be the best. Like I say, the 960 and the 970, I think you're going to have the issue is because they are 60 frames a second, and they don't have a 30 frame second mode on them. And then when you factor that in the fact that they're lower resolution, I think that's what's going to work against them. But it does seem like the lower the resolution as a rule, and of course the wide, because it uses the full width of the sensor, is the best of the two options, putting us right on this second test. It has verified then that 1080 wide in low light situations would be your best filming option to get the least amount of noise. When I go to do my next light test, I'm going to play with the protune options on the 1080 wide setting, and we're going to fine tune it from there and see which is exactly the best way to go.